Hi there, welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to a very different New Zealand performance against Argentina, and a very different performance by Argentina against New Zealand as well. Obviously, this is at Eden Park, which is the known fortress of New Zealand, and Wellington is that kind of weird place where weird things happen. I mean, I've been to Wellington myself, and it's kind of windy, and it's kind of like empty, and it was very stormy when I went, so I got weird vibes there myself, so I can understand why the All Blacks have a bit of a weird record there. They put that to bed, they came forward, and they had a much better performance. I think the big difference between last week and this week for the All Blacks specifically was capitalising on mistakes. Argentina in the first half gave away 5 penalties, and every single time that they did, it was capitalised with a very decent kick into the corner, and usually a try off the back of it. The Argentinian knock-ons were also capitalised with great counter-attacks. The speed of the ball, it was so much quicker coming out of the back of rucks, back of mauls. It really kind of gave the backs an opportunity to be on the front foot because the ball was just like coming out like lightning quick. Much, much better. We'll get into the details of that, but looking at Argentina, and I kind of thought of this analogy throughout the game, and it's kind of perfect in my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments. For those of you that watch any boxing, do you remember Andy Ruiz versus Anthony Joshua? Do you remember that first fight where Anthony Joshua maybe just didn't look quite himself, and Ruiz didn't play mistake-free, but he played the perfect fight against Joshua, and he won. And then the second fight happens, and Joshua just completely smokes him. Ruiz turns up looking a little bit less out of shape than he did in the first fight, and then kind of said, man, I wish I kind of trained a little bit more for this fight. Definitely feels like this is what Argentina were from the first game to the second game for me. Now, I'm not saying that Argentina were just on the beers from the moment that last Saturday's games finished until this Saturday, but what I am saying is they just seem like a bit of a different team energy-wise. You could probably contribute this down to a very kind of emotional win that they had against New Zealand to start the game. There were plenty of rightful tears and excitement and jubilation after that win against New Zealand, and I think the same energy wasn't there, and you could kind of sense that right from the first kind of possession, where Argentina knocked the ball on their first counter attack that they had, and the first note I wrote in this game was straight up different vibe from Argentina. The decisiveness in the counter attack wasn't there, the jackling wasn't there, getting over the gain line, and quick ball was not there. I mean, just breaking those down individually for a second, the counter attacking, it was indecisive. I think Malia, who played 15, who had a great game last week, I think probably had a bit more of a challenging game this week. It was just, you could just see in the counter-attack, there was just like this decision of like, I'm going to step, or am I going to go this direction? No, I'm going to kick. Whereas last week it was like, I'm going this way, I'm gone, right? And then the support play would be there and they would take advantage of the space. And when you play these elite teams, such as the All Blacks, which they still are, 100%, even with, you know, the difficulties that they had, they are still a very elite team, one of the best in the world. You've got to just be decisive and take advantage of the small gaps that are there, because the moment that you've kind of done that shift over and you've kind of stepped to one side or you've gone somewhere else and you've made a different decision, the defensive line's already set and the opportunity is not there. The knock-ons, there were loads of handling errors in attack, really uncharacteristic. Yes, it was a very wet and windy day at Eden Park, but you know, the All Blacks didn't have those same handling errors, so is the excuse really there? I don't know. If you want to be in the conversation for one of the best teams in the world and you want to be taken seriously in this Rugby Championship, you've got to be treated fairly like the rest of the teams. So if the All Blacks didn't knock it on that much, I don't think it's fair to assume that you should just have that excuse if the ball was wet. But there is an explanation of why it's there. And yeah, as I said, quick ball just was not there. The pack, last week I did think an excellent job, and their fitness was so high in able to clear the All Blacks out and make sure that the ball was just coming out lightning quick last week. This week, man, the scrum half was taken off at halftime and a lot of the backs were, but I don't think it was necessarily their fault. And it seems like, well, no one's saying it's your fault, but if all the back substitutes get put onto the pitch at the beginning of the second half, it's kind of a message of like, I feel like this is the people that have let us down. And I'm not sure that's necessarily true. I think the forwards, they were clunky. Their clear-outs weren't good. I remember one specific occasion in the first half where they were just trying to go for a lot of pickups and goes to try and get some momentum. And the 7 for the All Blacks managed to just jackal in between 2 guys that were already on the guy ready to ruck, and that shouldn't happen. Yes, it was a great play for the jackal and stealing it over, but it was just a little bit sloppy. And when it was whipped out wide, the support play to get there for the rucks was a little bit slow. Again, was it an emotional win last week? Did that take the energy out of them? It's a theory, it's hard to prove, but it's definitely what I think's happened. Looking at the scores, I think New Zealand came with a game plan. They knew that Argentina were going to be doing that rush defence, and credit to them that they edited what they were doing in attack to take advantage of that. Straight from the off, they took advantage of chip and chases over blitzing defences where the gap was in right behind the line that had rushed forward very, very quickly. You could see this with McKenzie, I think, doing the chip over to Barrett. Maybe I've got those two the wrong way round. Sorry, it was a while ago since the game kicked off, and it did kick off at like 8 in the morning, and it is a Saturday, so, sue me. However, in that move, you could see something that they tried to utilise quite early, the All Blacks. They were happy to kind of have their 10s sit in the pocket and have the chasers ready to go and take advantage of that space that they must have done their homework on to see that was there. Usually, in defence, this gap is kind of covered by your scrum half. So when you have a rush defence coming up, you'll probably have your scrum half acting as a bit of a sweeper, kind of like how to describe this, like a fullback that's closer to the line. He wasn't there, he was non-existent in that position, and it might be another reason of why he was substituted off at half-time. Contepomi might have thought that this is something that he should have done in terms of defensive duties and wasn't there. So that is another reason maybe why the substitution happened. The scrums, let's talk about those. So obviously New Zealand very, very dominant. They won all of their own scrums, and out of the 8 scrums that they won that I counted, I might have missed 1 or 2, they gained 5 penalties and 1 free kick. Complete dominance. I think Tomato Williams, I think he's probably, for me, if I'm Razor, I'm picking him at 1 from now on. I think he had a much better performance than Ethan de Groot did last week, both in the tight and the loose. Ethan de Groot obviously was good in the scrums once the scrums started happening. Actually, I'm saying that I think last week there wasn't a single scrum while Ethan de Groot was on the pitch, and I think he got subbed off at 60 minutes. So that's a lie. However, Tomato Williams, sue me, I'm getting the name wrong. I'm just going to call him Williams. His performance was really, really good, both in the scrum and also in the loose. He was jackling, he was taking hard lines, he kept all his composure, he did all his duties that he needs to in the line out, and in the scrums he was just fantastic. You could maybe argue maybe he's coming in at a slight angle, slightly, maybe, if you're being a bit harsh with refereeing. I wouldn't call it. I think he was right on the line, and those of us that have played front row know that you try and get away with as much as you can, and he got away with it, and I think he probably shouldn't have. It shouldn't have been called. So he had an excellent game, and he's just so large, dude. I mean, he's probably part of this reason why this New Zealand pack is 50 kg heavier than the Argentinian one, which I think made a big difference. I think the worrying thing if you're an Argentinian fan, player, or coach is that we're looking at the structure of the Argentinian scrum. I don't think they really did anything wrong. They were all straight backed, fully engaged. You didn't have an 8 like looking up going like, what's going on? He was fully in there as well. And they just got dominated. Bit concerning. It might just be that they just don't have the weight behind them. In which case, I mean, just start feeding your guys extra puddings at dinner. Give them some, I don't know, extra portion of steak or chicken. Bring in as many potatoes as you can. Extra helping of tartiflette. I don't know. You got to make these guys bigger, because it wasn't something that I saw where like one player was getting screwed in and I'm just like, that's something that needs to be changed over. It just looked like you're not powerful enough. And that's worrying, because it's not like you can work on anything there. So give the boys extra dessert for the next 2 weeks. Have them lifting, huge amounts of weights. Let's get some fucking squats in there, some deadlifts. And hopefully these guys are a little bit stronger. They will be playing Australia, so maybe they have a bit more time to get their scrum ready and in order. Will Jordan's return. Excellent. Last week, he was quiet. No I mean, I was fine with him being fine. Like it was my choice. Like it's up to me whether it's good or not. It was very excusable for him to be quiet last week. Been out of the game for so long, comes on for about 30 minutes in a game where the whole team's not playing well. But boy, this week he was great. I mean, TJ Perenara takes out 3 guys with an offload, and then Jordan just still has that pace, man. I mean, just got straight in the corner. Another try that he had a great break on the right-hand side. I think it was actually Ardie Savea maybe that kicked it through. Maybe he had a break, I can't remember. But what I do remember, and what was important from this, is that after he gets tackled, he gets up, has the work rate to come back in on the All Blacks back line, and then take an angle, and then push 2 people over the try line. This is the Will Jordan we remember. This is why I think he's the best, if one of the best, if not the best winger in the world. Straight back to great form, and it's great to see because he's a joy to watch, and for him to be out of the game this long has been a real shame. D-Mac, an excellent performance once again. Who can forget the keeping the ball in? You know, just when he's vibing, it's just beautiful to watch. He gets the ball, places it on the ground, steps out, comes back, picks the ball back up, loops back round and offloads it in the tackle to then give Barrett a free kick to go over and clear from the line. If that's not in the highlights, I don't know what the highlights are doing. I'm hoping to show a clip here. If there is no clip, please write into your local politician or whoever to change these goddamn highlights, because that should be in there. Absolutely no question. Speaking of clearing, one of the main criticisms I had of New Zealand last week as well was from kickoffs, or when they were pinned in their own 22, it was loose. They made mistakes. They gave scrums away. They just did not have a game plan. That was cleared up. They had the process and the system sorted out. Catch, take, Perenara, quick to a forward to get over the game line, suck defenders in, back to D-Mac who's in the pocket, get it out. This is basic stuff that was not being done last week, and it was done with clinical precision, and it got them out of their own half and took the pressure off them very quickly. So that was good to see that kind of stuff was just cleaned out. So excellent. Coaching has worked within a week, and they've just eliminated that from their game. Darry in the second row, a great game. Blackadder, a great game. 2 new guys that are coming into the team. Probably bore the brunt of a lot of, not them specifically themselves, but bore the brunt of the All Blacks team being criticised. I think both of those players had a big answer today. Darry was excellent. He made some great carries. He was great in the line out. Blackadder was just a nuisance. It's what you want to see from a 6 shirt. I think it was much improved performance. And Rieko Ioane at 13. You know, this is kind of like a tongue-in-cheek. I'm not serious with this, but maybe he's the Jenga piece in terms of this team playing better. He wasn't necessarily the reason they won, but now he's playing at 13 again. The All Blacks start to look like the All Blacks again. So something to watch out to see if it's a vibe or if it's something to take home if that's real. The commentary made a very funny line of Lavini. He's seen more cards than a fortune teller, which I think is very true. He was obviously a substitute that came on. And that's it for me. I think the Andy Ruiz analogy probably fits best, and I think it really builds up to a very interesting test that we've got next weekend against the Springboks. I am recording this without watching the Springboks game. It's happening in exactly 15 minutes from now. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the Springboks play against the Wallabies, and then how we go into what's going to happen in 2 weeks' time. I have to say, speaking to some of you guys in the comments, one of the comments I made is that the All Blacks performances out of 10 from when Razor have took over have probably been like 8 out of 10, then 7 out of 10, then 6 out of 10 last week. And I do think this is back to that kind of 8 or 9 out of 10. I think Razor's probably going to be very happy with the first half, but probably a bit disappointed in what happened in the second half. I counted that they gave away 6 penalties in the second half, and they obviously let that try over. I think it wasn't as exciting, and the scoreboard didn't just keep ticking over. So he may be having a bit concerns about the substitutes that came on and if they're the same effectiveness as his starting 15. So that's concerning when you're coming up against a Springbok team where you're going to need everyone in your 23 performing well. So yeah, I mean, at least you've got the confidence built. You've put in a statement performance at Eden Park, and you've got something to build off for next week. It's not next week, it's in 2 weeks' time against the Springboks. I'm not making any predictions now. I want to see how the Springboks play against the Wallabies, and then maybe I'll make a prediction after that. But anyway, that's it for this video. I'll catch you in the next video for the Springboks Wallabies review.